Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Grammy Award-winning musician and founder of tectonicsmusic.org and the Tectonic Talent Leadership Program, Dana Leung.
Thank you, and welcome to what many would say is the greatest weekend for education of the entire year. Dubai has a rich 5,000-year history, and it is only in the last 60 years that it is propelled through natural resource and through innovation to one of the leading productivity hotspots of the world. As the son of a music teacher, this is so very important to me as an initiative and as a moment, and I know it is for you as well, for you would not have traveled all the way across the world to be here if it were not. This is truly a testament to the enlightenment of the leadership and the people that we all so deeply connect to the moment that we touch ground in this very beautiful and sacred place. I'd like to say a great congratulations to this year's finalists of the Global Teacher Prize. Yes, yes indeed. And a great thank you to our generous hosts and the patrons, the Varkey Foundation, for whom without this would not be able to take place, and to His Royal Highness. Thank you. Thank you from the deep bottom of my heart. I look forward to many more years of success through education and togetherness. This is entitled Dream State. Every great dream starts with a seed, so don't forget to keep planting seeds and keep dreaming big. All right, you can shake out your bones, shake out the jet lag, and let's get ready for a great weekend together. Are you ready? That's right. Thank you.
The world is not a foreign entity. It's you,
It's me.
it's me,
It's me.
You and me.
literally all of us.
The world to me means my family,
My friends, people I love, people that love me.
people I look up
The
to.
world is changing. The question is, what is the nature of this change?
I think every class I go to changes the world a little bit.
Tomorrow belongs to those that are in school today.
Teachers and students together as a team create the most meaningful change in the world.
Learning about climate change was
Learning about the civil rights movement changed the
I
world.
think that in my class, my teacher has changed the world as I see it. Everyone has their unique perspective.
I'd like to change the world one day.
We can change the world if we listen to each other.
Ladies and gentlemen, our first speaker this morning is an internet hit, a presenter in his own right, and a vlogger. Please welcome to the stage Braden Bent.
Hello, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Braden Bent. I'm 10 years old and I live in Manchester in the UK. Now, thank you. Now, I may not be what you're expecting from your host today, but don't worry, Vikas, I'm not after your job. Yet. Anyway, the whole point of this entire conference is to make us see things from a different point of view, to help us understand that the rules of the game have changed. The world is changing so fast, so we need to change with it. Over the next 2 days, we will shine a spotlight on our new generation of changemakers. We'll hear their voices, their new ideas, and their new technologies for the first time. Once upon a time, if you wanted to be listened to, you had to wear a business suit. Now you can be a billionaire and still wear trainers. How cool is that? Has anybody got trainers on today? We've got the swag. You can also be a YouTube teenager sitting in your bedroom and starting a YouTube campaign. That sometimes has a bigger impact than most politicians make in a lifetime. But some bloke said to me, Dad, the times are changing. While these new change makers are from all different worlds, they're still all passionate about helping to transform the lives of young people. Which is another reason why I'm here. I'm here to remind you that it's my world too. It's my generation that will have to live in the world that important people like you guys in this room are creating. Once this beautiful stage has been packed away, once the lights have gone out, and once you lovely people are boarding your flight, it will be my generation that will be left behind to deal with this mess. So let's try harder. I have got an auto cue, by the way, so... Thank you very much. I learned that. So let's try harder. After all, it's the 7th Global Education and Skills Forum. We know what we're doing here. Now, did you know this is one of the largest 360-degree screens that has ever been used in the Middle East for an event before? It's brilliant, isn't it? It's brilliant. And you know, it can even make your wishes come true. Make a wish. Look up. Anyway, that's going on my Christmas list. I'm sure it can surround my room. I know if you make it smaller, if you're listening, Mum and Dad, which you are, just put that on there. Yeah, let's do that. Anyway, let's move on and start making change. Let's invite our first set of change makers to the stage. But before we do that, let's watch this sizzle reel.
By 2030, experts predict that there will be a 40% greater demand for water than the supply of water available. The truth is that I'm not an athlete. I'm just an everyday person who wanted to stand up and make a difference. 100 marathons in 100 days, my way of showing all of us and the planet what it means to be 100% committed to something. I want a future where there's enough water for everybody forever. The thing that keeps me going is knowing that all of you are behind me. That everybody on this planet is part of the journey.
Growing up in Kibera, one of the largest slums in Africa, Kennedy Odede experienced extreme poverty, violence, lack of opportunity, and deep gender inequality. Kennedy Odede started Shofco as a teenager in 2004 with 20 cents and a soccer ball.
We saw ourselves as a tiny candle shining in the middle of the slum. And I remember we were like, you know what? People will see what we're doing. If we keep on focusing and believing in togetherness, we can show the world that when people come together, no matter their background, you can transform it.
Now, wasn't that great? So, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Mark Pollock, Mina Gooley, and Kennedy Odede. Awesome. Just going back in my seat. So, how are you guys today?
Good.
You good? All right then. Very enthusiastic answer for starting.
We're feeling old, Brayden. You make us feel
No,
old.
you're not. You're not. Right. So,
Wow.
can I ask you a couple of questions, guys?
Yes.
Yeah. So, Mark, if I can ask you first. So, unbroken by blindness in 1998, you used to run ultra endurance races across deserts, mountains, polar ice cap, including being the first man to race to the South Pole. But then a fall in 2010 nearly killed you. You broke your back and the spinal injury left you paralysed. But this time, you're on a new mission. That mission is to find the cure for paralysis. Mark, you've clearly faced some challenges in your life. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, your introduction, I'm starting to feel, you're getting me down, Brayden.
I'm sorry.
But look, I think in simple terms, what I've learned is that sometimes we have the luxury of choosing the challenges we take on, and sometimes challenges just choose us. It's the way it is. What I'm interested in is what we decide to do about it. And in particular, I'm interested in the idea that with the option to be a spectator or to get into the arena and be a competitor, with the option to be an optimist, but I think to make progress, we have to decide to be realists. And we also have the option to sit back and be soloists, but for the really big breakthroughs, I think we really have to be collaborators.
Thank you, Mark. Now, you mentioned in the blog you wrote in intensive care. Sorry, so I know that you wrote a blog in intensive care with your fiancé. It was called Optimist, Realist, or something else. Can you tell me more about that, Mark?
Yeah, well, I lost my sight in 1998, and I thought, you know, that was enough. Went to the South Pole, and then I found myself having fallen out of a window. I found myself in intensive care, navigating really a fine line between life and death. And I was trying to work out how I should respond to this second challenge. And I wrote that blog lying in intensive care, and it was called Optimist, Realist, or something else, trying to work out how I should be, how I should deal with these double challenges. And it drew on part of a book by an author called Jim Collins, who wrote a book called Good to Great. And in that book, he spoke to a guy called Jim Stockdale, Admiral Jim Stockdale, who was a prisoner at the height of the Vietnam War, and he was incarcerated, tortured, didn't know if or when he might get out. And his story was bleak, but he survived. And Jim Collins was particularly interested in who were the ones who didn't survive. And Admiral Stockdale goes on to explain that the ones who didn't survive were the optimists, because the optimists kept thinking they'd be out by the end of the year, and the year would come and go, and they thought they'd be out by the following year, it would come and go. And it was the optimists who became disappointed and demoralized. Many of them died in their cells when the best case scenario didn't play out. I think Stockdale was a realist. He had studied the ancient Stoic philosophers and managed to confront the brutal facts of his current circumstances while maintaining a faith that he would prevail in the end. And as I lay there in intensive care, trying to digest what was happening to me, I was trying to apply his thinking as a realist to my increasingly bleak circumstances. And I didn't know really by the end of the blog in intensive care what he was truly talking about. But I think over the years I have come to understand that really all he was saying was that the optimists rely on hope alone. And if you rely on hope alone, you risk being disappointed and demoralized. If you're a realist, you manage to accept today and keep hope alive. You manage to run both in parallel. And I think that's the liberating place, and that's what I've been practicing over the last number of years.
Thank you, Mark. Now, Mina, you run marathons to raise awareness for water crisis, and I know that you run 40 marathons across 7 deserts in 7 continents in 7 weeks. I mean, first of all, why would you run marathons to raise awareness for water crisis?
Thanks, Braden. That's pretty much what I ask myself every day when I get up and I'm running. Because the truth is, I'm actually not a natural athlete, nor am I talented, nor am I like any kind of real sports person. I'm just
By the way, she's everything she just said.
Whatever. That's what you can say when you're really young, as opposed to when you're old like us over this side of the stage. When I found out that experts predict that in the next 11 years we're going to have a 40% greater demand for water than the supply of water available, it just seemed like a number on a page. And what I wanted to do was to go into some of the most extreme places on the planet to understand from people what the problem really is, but also to meet those that are developing solutions to this crisis. So I've run in places in South Africa where on my runs I've literally delivered gallons of water to young kids your age, who stay home from school in order to wait for the trucks of water to come because their taps have been turned off. I've met 24-year-old farmers whose only hope for the future is literally to hope for rain or to leave their farm. The situation in water is completely dire. So part of my running is to connect all of us to this crisis. It's easy when we see a big problem to think, this is someone else's thing, it's so far away, it's a country I've never been to. But the reality is, with something big like water, we're all connected to it through the things that we use and buy and consume every day, from the water we eat to the clothes that we wear. Just what you're wearing today, took a pretty smart outfit, love the kicks.
Thank you, and so do you.
So just what you're wearing today took more water to make than all the water you will have drunk before you turn 40 years old. Just that one outfit. And if you think about how much we all wear, how much we've got in our closet, the food outside that we're going to eat today, the consequences are immense. And they're immense not only for our generation, but for yours. And it's for people like you that really drive me. So I can say it's about this whole campaign, this whole expedition is all about water. And that's a big part of it. But actually, an even bigger part is I want to show what it means to be 100% committed to something. I want to show everybody in this planet that we're all capable of greatness, that you don't need to be anyone to be someone, that every single one of us sitting in this room who has a dream is capable of fulfilling that dream if you're 100% committed to it.
Thank you, Mina. Storytelling is a very, very powerful tool as well. I mean, look, they even got a round of applause. Well, you even got a round of applause, I should say.
Let's just go with we. It's all about the we.
Nah, definitely, Mina. Now, I know that you also like getting everybody included. Can you tell me how you do that?
Yeah. I think when I looked at the water crisis, I had the same response that most people have to any big problem. It's like, I'm just one person. What on earth can I do to solve this big, enormous crisis that's affecting our planet? And I think the time when I really realized the impact that one ordinary person can have was at marathon number 62 of my last 100, attempt to run 100 marathons in 100 days. And at day 62, I was diagnosed with a fracture in my leg. The fracture was so bad that the doctors told me I wouldn't be able to continue running. I thought at the time my entire world had collapsed around me. I thought that I had let down myself, my team, the planet, the water crisis. And at that moment, sitting in the hospital surrounded by doctors, my team came up and they said, Mina, you don't understand. This water crisis, this dream you have is much bigger than you. It's much bigger than one person. And on day 63, when I was in hospital, they went out and they ran my marathon for me. On day 64, people we did not know came and joined them as they ran a marathon on day 64. Day 65, we had people across the world running for us. By the time we got to day 100, we had thousands of people in over 160 cities in 50 countries and territories on every single continent of this planet running to support us.
No wonder you get a round of applause. They were brilliant answers, Mina, sorry. I was just reading the things there. Now, Kennedy,
yes.
You're one of Africa's best known for combating urban poverty. You set up free schools for girls in the slum of Nairobi. You make clean water, medical care accessible, yeah? But can you tell me how you overcame the gangs, the crime, the cartels, the poverty? How did you basically overcome the impossible?
Thank you so much, Ben. So what happened is that when you are born in poverty, in a hard time, you become invisible. Poverty makes you invisible, and you feel like nobody cares about you. So I was a very angry kid. At the age of 10, I was homeless, street boy, eating from the garbage. And I realized that nobody will change my life. I have to change my own life. I'll either perish or do something. My friends were in prison, some were shot. And I read a story of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And I was like, I was around 15 years old. I was like, wow, I admire this man for caring for his community. So I came to Kibera, I organized people so that they can feel that idea that they can also have an impact in other people's life. So we didn't have any money. It was more about a movement. People coming together in a community to solve their own problems, like cleanups, theater, football, those kind of things.
Football? No wonder you ball football. Football's the best, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, man.
Put that one there. Now, your non-profit organisation, Shining Hope on Communities, won the Hilton Humanitarian Prize for helping extreme human suffering. Now, I know that you did come from the slums, didn't you? So how did you change your life around?
Yes. So my life was a tough life, but you also realize that talent is universal, but opportunity not. And seeing the system of education in my community, no good healthcare, no good schools, you realize that, you know what? You have to do something. I also realized that I cannot keep on being on drugs or taking a lot of alcohol and being useless. We were trying to bring on a mark in our society. And I knew that I can't do it myself. And the most people who were suffering in the community were women. So that's how we started having a school for girls in the community. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Kennedy.
Thank you.
Now, could I ask all three of you a question?
Yes.
Okay, so Mina, if I can ask you first. So there are over 40 education ministers in this room today. What could schools do more about raising awareness for water crisis?
So my dream is a world where every person on the planet, every child, knows and understands the value of water. And to do that, I would love to see education on water included in curriculum in every country, to every child, everywhere. I think... But actually, that's only part of it, because inspiring people to change the world is fine if you drop a seed in their minds. What we really need to do is also inspire people to believe that we can change the world. Someone wrote on one of my Twitter feeds one day when I was in the middle of this entire crazy last expedition, individually we can make an impact, but together we can change the world.
Kennedy. What do you think of the future for you and your organisations?
Thank you. I see the future is for the young people like you. And for that to happen, urbanization is a big issue now. 2050, almost 60% of the population are going to live in the informal settlements, so in the urban centers. And we're going to have a crisis. So I want the government, policymakers to start working on this now. Otherwise, slums will be a disaster or a place of talents that we can all of us can benefit from if we transform it. Thank you. Oh, that's so nice. Thank you.
Brilliant. And Mark, you used to run ultra-endurance races, but now your new mission is to find the cure for paralysis. What do you think of the future?
Well, look, when I had my spinal cord injury, I discovered that it strikes at the heart of what it means to be human. And for the 500,000 people who suffer this injury every year around the world, that's the impact, and people die too young. Now, what I found strange was that with the minds we have in the world, up to this point in history, it had proven to be impossible to find a cure. Yet, as we all know, history is filled with accounts of the impossible made possible through human endeavour, a kind of human endeavour that took people to the South Pole 100 years ago, and the kind of human endeavour that will probably take us to Mars in the early part of this century. So I started asking myself, why can't that same human endeavour cure paralysis in our lifetime? And based on some of the people working in robotics, electrical stimulation, brain-machine interface, AI, virtual reality, I believe that in fact that human endeavour will cure paralysis. So in answer to your question, who are the change makers? I think the explorers are the people who teach us to be resilient and collaborate with other people so that together we can achieve more than we thought possible. I think it's the explorers who are the change makers.
You guys are the change makers as well, never forget that. So I definitely took all of that information, and I hope you did too. That was so inspiring, guys. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding for Kennedy, Mina and Mark.
Welcome to our first Global Education and Skills Forum.
This is just the beginning of the journey. Let's work together, and together, let us create a legacy that will be remembered for generations.
We are just beginning what I am convinced will be a very exciting story throughout the 21st century, and I thank all of you for your dedication to its success.
It's a Davos for education. It's a sort of hit on a subject, namely education reform. I've just seen every year, not simply an incremental change, but a kind of quantum leap in the way the conference is regarded and respected.
We need all people to come together and offer their input, ideas, and passion.
Not too long ago, our nation's history started with a handful of teachers who set the course of history in the growth and development of our country. We know all too well the role and impact that one person can have in changing the future.
All the press around it, all the prime ministers tweeting about it, it just elevates how important this profession is to our global society, and that has to be a good thing.
The Global Teacher Prize goes to Nancy Atwell.
As William Butler Yeats said, education is not filling a pail, but lighting a fire.
His Holiness, Pope Francis.
También felicitar a la maestra Hannah Alejo.
all that happened to me, I still have the courage to go to school and get an education because every kid needs to be educated.
We can now go 80 miles up in the air.
Dubai. The winner of the Global Teacher Prize 2017 is Maggie MacDonald.
We matter, teachers matter. Thank you so much.
What we're asking you to do is to provide us with a platform of education so that we can be prepared for the future.
There's always something to come out of like-minded people coming together, believing in education.
If it wasn't for my PE teacher, I wouldn't be here today. So it's important that we give back to the foundation and the community particularly.
Being here, meeting world leaders, telling our story, meeting powerful, influential people, and mobilizing them to make change, that's why we're here.
The 2018 winner of the Global Teacher Prize, Andrea Zafiraku.
Forget bankers, educators, teachers. You will save the world.
Ladies and gentlemen, Chairman of the Board of Trustees of the Varkey Foundation, Vikas Pota.
How do you follow that? A 10-year-old boy, huh? That guy. Your Excellencies, friends, on behalf of the Varkey family, welcome to Dubai. Not only because they reside over here, because we believe Dubai represents what I think is the best of the future, the city of the future. So welcome. This stage is different from the setup that we have every year. We look upon some of the biggest issues that we face in the world today with a level of seriousness and a gravity that I think the issues deserve. Just last week, we had the tragedies in New Zealand, we had the cyclone in Mozambique, and all of these situations, when they occur, they always make me think, what can we do to make our world a better place? And the answer really lies, and I was thinking about this earlier, the answer lies in finding out who is changing the world. Because by doing so, we come to understand how it is they're approaching this change. So this morning we've heard from Mark, from Mina, from Kennedy. They may not come from the education sector, but we hear from them as to how they're approaching this really important subject of change. Maybe there's some things in there that we can take as educators. I bet there are many of you in this room over here who receive presentations and emails like I do talking to me about what the school of the future is, or what the classroom of the future is, what a tech-enabled environment looks like. And to be honest, I'm really fed up with receiving these emails because I don't see these changes actually appearing. We still see schools, we still see education institutions in the same mold as they always have been. So this opportunity, this stage, this conference, the focus really is on understanding how others have done it, not in the education sector. We want to understand how the climate crisis, the activists in that sector have actually brought the whole world to understand the gravity of the issue there. We want to understand in terms of, from people like Mark, what advances are happening in science that can help him walk again. Because through understanding how these advances happen, we may be able to advance our own case for better education for all. And that is why we have chosen this particular theme this year. Now, no conference can actually be done by itself. Yes, we are the Varkey Foundation. Yes, you may think we are superhuman, but no, that is not true, as much as my ego tells me it is. But I see my daughters rolling their eyes. This is not true. We cannot do this without partners. And today, I want to mark out some partners who have helped us construct this conference and what we've done in the past. In specific, I want to clearly mention the role of Dubai Cares and that of UNESCO. From our very first year, and I see Irina Bokova here, who was the Director General of UNESCO, who took a gamble to support this event. And we appreciate that. And Stefania, you continue that. Thank you so much. Alongside these organizations, we also have so many different friends who are contributing towards the programming of this conference. And I thank each and every single one of them. Some are new partners, some have been around for a long time with us, and we really appreciate all your contributions to making this event just spectacular. So thank you. The approach we're taking at this conference, actually last year, for those that were here last year, you know, I reflect on it, I look backwards, and I think sometimes it felt like Dino and Jay's wedding. You know, there's a lot of people here. There was a lot of celebration. But actually, sometimes I think we lose the focus on the discussion, the substance. And that is why this year we want to do a better job at this. For that reason, what we've done very carefully is bring together 5 communities. And these 5 communities, acting in concert, we believe will propel education and a quality education for all. These 5 communities start with, because education is a public good, we have to think about how we strengthen public education systems. We start with the policy community. And we are honored that we have so many education ministers this year who are here. Alongside former heads of government, we also have a serving president who will be here tomorrow, and who was here with us yesterday. And the reason why we've brought them all together is because I think they need to work in concert with the civil society groups that are over here. I know that Refat Sabah is over here from the Global Campaign for Education, and groups like this, groups like all the international NGOs that are represented over here, I think we need to work better, more effectively to make sure we address the learning crisis that exists. Now, as we go around the world, we see a lot of disruption happening. We see, you know, whether it's in your ever-increasing consumer society, we see the use of technology. This also needs to be, we need to think through how we're going to approach technology and education. So last year, we brought together an EdTech community. And this year, tomorrow morning at this stage, you will all get the opportunity to decide who the winner of our next billion EdTech prize is. So please make sure you're here in the audience. You will select the winner of this new prize for us. And why that is important is simply because we need to show the world what good looks like. Because there's so much technology out there, and yet, actually, we think that they live in a bubble. And by you being involved in this discussion, by you actually selecting the winner, we send a very powerful message to the world that actually we think that this could work. Many of you in this room are educators, are teachers, and your voices matter to this discussion. That's why we bring this to our main stage tomorrow morning. Now, when we think about tech, when we think about education, there's one group that actually doesn't get a look in normally. And it's a new facet that we're bringing to this conference. It's in partnership with the excellent Jacobs Foundation, and it's to do with the learning sciences. We've brought together some of the leading researchers from academia to talk to us how the brain works, as an example. Now, when we think about our classrooms, with or without tech is not the question, we also need to think about how kids learn. And so, for that reason, we are indebted to you to being able to bring these incredible researchers together. Now, the last community we've been building for the longest period of time is to do with a certain profession called teaching. You may know that tomorrow night we have a small celebration at hand. But without further ado, friends, please be upstanding to congratulate the finalists of our Global Teacher Prize. education system, and I face our minister friends over here, no education system, I see the Ghanaian minister laughing at me, no education minister can outperform the quality of its teachers. And I repeat that, no education system can outperform the quality of its teachers. When we bring teachers to the discussion, everything changes. How many panel discussions have we been to? How many events have we been to when people discuss education and not one teacher on it? We change this. We change this today. We change this here and now. Now, this Global Teacher Prize that we have, it's an innovation. It's an innovation in that there's a global prize. But teacher prizes have existed since time immemorial. And what we have, as a result of our Global Teacher Prize, are a series of other national teacher prizes that have come on stream. And so far, we have 38 of these around the world. Please join me in congratulating and recognizing the winners of these prizes, as well as the organizers of these prizes. Now, when you look at a conference this size, I was actually last night, in preparation for this, I asked my colleagues, who's here? Tell me how many delegates we have. Tell me from how many countries. You know, and they gave me some amazing statistics, which I want to share with you. I say this with great pride, and actually I am indebted to all of you for making the effort to come all the way to Dubai for this conversation. I think it's a really important event, but not just as an event, but as a campaign. You're partners in that journey. So thank you so much for making the effort to be here with us. Some of the statistics we'll display on the screens now. We have 297 speakers in 124 public sessions from 144 countries. You know, there's nearly 2,200 delegates. We have 64 grant-making organizations, 7 former heads of government, 200 media organizations. Please remember, everything is on the record when you speak to anyone. And all of this is done by an incredible team that we've put together and have been with us for a long time. Please join me in thanking them. Of course, no event is possible without financial support. So we have sponsors to thank as well. Please join me in thanking All Prince, GEMS Education, Atlantis, Emirates Airlines, and Mashreq Bank. I just spotted one Sebastian Veron from Manchester United. Good on you, mate. Now, I've received a lot of emails that say, we don't have the program, we don't know who's here. Listen, we live in this age where you need to download the app. It's a really simple concept. Please download the GESF app. It's really simple. My appeal to you is all these great conversations that are going to take place, all this content that you're going to experience, that you're going to engage with. You know, it's fine that there are so many delegates in this room at this conference. Actually, our desire is that lots more people find out about all the discussions that are taking place. So I implore you to please follow our social media handles. You know, they're listed over here. GESF Forum, Varkey Foundation, Teacher Prize, the hashtags are there. Please, please, please use these. Now, last year, it was a bit cheesy, I understand, but I asked you all to take your mobile phones out. Please take your phones out again. It's become a bit of a tradition. Please take your mobile phones out. Mobile phones, mobile phones. Can I see your mobile phones, please? Great. Are you following these accounts? No, I'm being serious. I'm going to make you follow these accounts. Please follow these accounts. All right. I want you all to take a photo, obviously of me. Please take a photo. Take a photo. Looking slim, I see. Now, I want you to tweet it, and I want you to say this. Improving learning outcomes is the most important thing we will do. We will only do this by improving teacher status. And I want you to use the hashtag GESF. Because that, my friends, is the challenge that we set. If we want to change the world, we need to understand how this change is happening. In education, if we want to change the world, we need to back our teachers. Ladies and gentlemen, there's only one final request. These social media accounts are fantastic, but there's 2 more you should also follow. Do a brother a favor. Thank you all. Have a great time.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the CEO of Dubai Cares, Tariq Al-Gurg.
Good morning, everyone. I would like to welcome you all to Dubai and the United Arab Emirates. I'm really glad to be here once again with you at the Global Education and Skills Forum. I'm under the weather for the past 1 week, so my voice won't be the sexy voice you used to know, but let's see how it goes. I would like to thank Sunny for uniting us for the 7th time, for bringing us under one roof. I would like to thank you, Vikas, and your entire team for putting all of this together for the past 7 years. It's not an easy job. We all know that. And Dubai Cares is very grateful, and I am very grateful on behalf of the entire team at Dubai Cares for having us as a founding partner with the Global Education and Skills Forum. It is really a pride. And I would just want to reflect on yesterday's session on the Philanthropy Summit. So we had, for the first time, the kickoff of a huge philanthropy summit where we had around 100 delegates from 60 global philanthropic organizations globally. We discussed many things from 8:30 in the morning until 5 o'clock in the evening. And Vikas, that was, I believe, 3 years in the making, and finally we got it. And I hope this will be an annual event, and every year it will triple in size until we reach almost 700, and then we will stop because there's no capacity later on. So please give a big round of applause to Sunny, Vikas, and the entire GSF team, please. It is also great to be in a room full of so many global education champions and visionary leaders to discuss matters that unite us all. Solutions to bring education, equity, and employment to all. A week ago on Friday, I was horrified by the news of the mass shooting at 2 mosques in Christchurch, New Zealand, that resulted in the loss of 51 lives. This news reached me through the screen of my phone, only minutes after the attack had taken place. This cowardly attack was designed from the start to get attention, leveraging social media to make sure as many people as possible would hear about it and the deaths and the hate underpinning them as it was going on. This act of terrorism was live streamed on Facebook, reposted on other social platforms, and mirrored around the world before the tech companies, traditional media, and regulators could even react. Over the past 10 years, social media has been weakening and in many cases destroying the gatekeepers that shield the general public from exposure to this kind of violence. Before the internet, it was unusual for anyone besides the police and the media to be brought into such close proximity to the kinds of material that was shared by the terrorists in Christchurch. Now, it's possible for this material to be passed around quickly, reach a broad audience. As such, those who want to change our world by sowing fear and hate have an unprecedented access to listeners. But this is also true for those who want to change our world for the better. A young Swedish girl, whom I am sure you all know of by now, started her lonely school strike against climate change in front of the Swedish Parliament building last August, but has since inspired a global student movement. A week ago on Friday, the same day of the Christchurch massacre, over 1 million students in 125 countries were on school strike protesting against their government's inaction on climate change. All of them were inspired by the determination and boldness of a 16-year-old whose demand for urgent action spread across the globe through social media as well as traditional media outlets. This has given these young students a voice and sense of purpose, propelling them to be the drivers of change. So what do these examples have to do with the Global Education and Skills Forum and us in this room? Well, for starters, us in this room, will most likely not be the ones who will change the world. We're simply too old, that's why. We do not challenge old assumptions strongly or often enough. We still think one size fits all. We're not skeptical and sensible enough. And lastly, we're surprisingly disengaged and dismissive of the critical problems facing our world today. There are currently 1.8 billion people aged between 10 and 14 on this planet. Every month, 10 million young people reach working age, ready to begin productive lives. Some will continue with education, others will enter the workforce. They will discover that the world is not creating 10 million new jobs every month, and they will find a dramatic mismatch between the skills they possess and the jobs that are available. In other words, yesterday's skills don't match today's job market, and we don't know what tomorrow's skills will entail. In the poorest countries, young people find the vast majority of opportunities are limited to the informal sector. In high-income countries, they will find that technology and low-cost production have erased many of the entry-level jobs, closed factories, and narrowed opportunities. This skills crisis paints a bleak picture, not just for young people all over the world who are seeking change, looking for opportunities and a better future, but also for entire countries and regions looking for economic growth and social stability. However, this picture is not inevitable, and we, especially all you teachers in this room, have the ability to influence and ensure the children and youth of tomorrow are equipped with the right skills to change their world for the better. Not just in private schools here in Dubai or in well-resourced public schools in Europe, but everywhere in the world. So what are these skills that equip children and youth with the ability to navigate an increasingly complex world with instant access to unfiltered information and channel their efforts into pathways and initiatives that allow them to flourish and remain resilient to change and pressure? According to the World Economic Forum, amongst the top skills for the future are complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, and emotional intelligence. These are the skills that will allow future generations to effectively navigate and contribute to the societies around them. What does that mean for schools and curricula? What implications do they have on how and what we teach? We know that education acts as a driver and catalyst of all key development parameters: health and well-being, meaningful livelihoods, economic security, and the full development of human potential. In a world where these parameters are increasingly dynamic and forever changing, the primary aim of any education system should be to support the development of children into human beings and citizens the definitions of which are also dynamic and deeply personal. Such a system cannot be reduced to standardized tests or a handful of KPIs, which leads me to question, how would you measure humanity? As leaders, policymakers, donors, principals, teachers, and parents, we're all responsible to ensure that we equip the children and youth that we deserve all around the world with the adequate skills for each and every one of them to become someone who changes the world for the better, and that we are held accountable for it. Here in the UAE, we have always attached great importance to the role of children and youth because we have always known that they are the ones who will be responsible for the success and sustainability of our society. In 2016, a young Emirati woman was appointed as the Minister of Youth at the age of 22, in line with the UAE Vision 2021, which requires the youth to shoulder responsibilities, innovate, and contribute to the welfare of the community. Their skill, energy, and enthusiasm are our most valued human capital. The UAE Centennial 2071 lays the provision to set up a youth council for all sectors to gather their opinion, as the world we need to create today is a world our future generations want to live in. 2019 also happens to be the year of tolerance in the UAE. The essential skill of tolerance is, in fact, discerning the distinction between fact and opinion. This requires critical thinking, complex problem solving, sometimes creativity, and most often some emotional intelligence. Tolerance is respect, acceptance, and appreciation of the diversity of our world's cultures. And I am proud to say that the UAE community is a melting pot of tolerance, cohesion, respect, and acceptance of the other. Tolerance is an intrinsic value and a key trait of our social fabric. And for tolerance to become a truly global value, embraced by all, our world, as we know it today, needs to change. So let's ensure that all children have what it takes to be that change. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage founder of the Varkey Foundation, Mr. Sonny Varkey.
Thank you. Your Highness, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Dubai, and welcome to our 7th Global Education and Skills Forum. First and foremost, I would like to take a moment to thank His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, the Vice President and Prime Minister of the UAE and ruler of Dubai. It is His Highness's vision, particularly in this year of tolerance, that has inspired all of us to put this conference together. We could not have done any of this without his support. Thank you. Tonight, we are trying something new, something you all will be part of, something I hope that will get your heart beating, your hands clapping, and your feet tapping. Tonight, we are holding our very first Global Teacher Prize concert. A joyful thank you to the teachers all around the world for the work they do. Our way of singing praises for our teachers, spreading our message of teacher respect beyond this room, breaking through these conference walls, reaching new audiences, especially young people. I would like to thank everyone who is working so hard to make it such a special night for the teachers. And tomorrow night, the top 10 finalists of this Global Teacher Prize 2019 will stand on this very stage. And just one of them will hold the prize in their arms. But in truth, every single teacher in the world will be a winner. Because by shining a spotlight on one great teacher, we shine the light on the whole profession. A profession that is so overdue. A simple thank you. We recently launched a report that proved for the very first time that the status of teachers in society is directly linked to the results of children in their classroom. Now we can say beyond doubt that respecting teachers is not only an important moral duty, it's essential for positive educational outcomes. I will say it again. Respecting teachers is not only an important moral duty, it is essential for positive educational outcomes. Policymakers of the world, please take note. And this is why I stand before you now, because the ground is shifting beneath our feet. If you were to walk into any classroom anywhere in the world, in the last few thousand years, you would know where you were. Whether you saw Aristotle challenging his students in ancient Greece, or Michelangelo giving a masterclass in Renaissance Italy, or any of the top 10 finalists in teaching in different corners of the world. We may have replaced writing on stone for typing on iPads, but you would know where you were. But I think we all know that this is about to change. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, education is at a crossroads. Signs are pointing in every direction, but we don't know where they lead. If we take the wrong path, we may get lost for a century. We may never even find our way back. Education has been tossed in the air, and we don't know where the pieces will fall. If anyone at this conference tells you they know the answer, don't believe them. This is, however, one thing we can be confident about. Education will change more in the next 50 years than it has in the last 1,000. And in the next 50 years, it will change in ways that will influence the next 1,000. But the only important question we have to ask is, how do we ensure the fruits of this progress are shared by everyone, whether they are born with nothing or born with everything? Leaps forward in technology, our new ability to decode a child's brain, the way we can now share ideas, the possibilities are endlessly impressive. But our record at harnessing this power for good of education is not. Take EdTech, for example. It has promised much but not delivered its potential. And do you know why? In all the conferences I have been around the world, I never once saw a teacher invited to be part of the EdTech discussions. How short-sighted and frankly impolite not to ask those on the front line delivering an education. Yes, they are always policymakers, tech entrepreneurs, and investors, but never teachers. But whenever we do listen to teachers, those are always the most productive conversations. We must remember that EdTech is just as much about its people as it's about technology. And you know what? If it's up to me, I wouldn't use the term edtech at all. A term I prefer to use is much more straightforward: education. If we get this right, we can give teachers the data that shows where a child needs more help. And if we get this right, we can free teachers from the burden of bureaucracy. And if we get this right, we can give teachers the chance to learn from each other wherever they are in the world. And if we get this right, we can let teachers get on with their work that no robot will ever be able to do. Make a connection. Encourage a child that the effort is worth it. And care, actually care for their students. Huge are these challenges within the world of education, but there are even greater challenges from outside. Machines are replacing workers, affecting both blue and white collar workers. And this won't be a one-off period of painful adjustment, after which normality will return. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. This world of constant retraining and reinvention will be the future of our children. Robots will run our factories, but not humans. So our schools cannot be production lines. New jobs will require creativity, problem solving, negotiations, and emotional skills. And we know what will happen if we don't get this right. We are already seeing social and political chaos around the world. In other words, giving every child a great education is now as urgent. This is not a moment to lose. And for those of you sitting comfortably thinking your job can never be replaced by a robot, you may be right and you may be wrong. But they can and will reach you in other ways. The news that we are reading, the tweets that pop up in our smartphones, the adverts selling junk to our children. They want to keep us staring at the screen. You know the feeling. And the big question we are all asking ourselves is this: are we really at the mercy of this awesome computing power? Is it shaping what we want, what we think, and even who we are? We have one defense against this. Only one defense. There is only one thing that can help us continue to be rational and thoughtful citizens who can make our own decisions. It's not something new law or expensive new gadget, but something else. I will say it simply: a great education. A great education that teaches young people how to sift truth from hype. A great education that teaches young people the difference between a balanced argument and a cynical outburst on social media. A great education that teaches young people how seeing the world from another point of view is a strength and not a weakness. And shouting people down is a weakness and not a strength. Ladies and gentlemen, more than machinery, we need morality. More than social media, we need a social conscience. More than opinions, we need knowledge. Yes, we need knowledge. More than anything else, we need an education. It's mankind's only true hope. It has always been and always will be. In past centuries, change was driven by familiar cast of characters: emperors, queens, politicians, and generals. But today, change is driven by much wider range of actors: entrepreneurs, activists, celebrities, stars of social media. And of course, our teachers, the greatest change makers. Because they shape the future every day through the children they teach, we can no longer wait for politicians to act. The time is too short, the crisis too severe. If we are to stop the global education crisis, we must not just look to the policymakers, but to our neighbors, to those inspirational people in our communities who are striving every day to make change. We in the education community must learn from these people, which is why we asked this weekend, who is really changing the world? It is not a simple question anymore, but we know one thing for sure. The speed of change gets faster every year, and the results get harder to predict. Which brings me back to the beginning. We stand at that crossroads. I urge you to listen carefully to all the inspirational change makers at this conference. Let them help you to choose the right path. And if we take the right path, I believe education's greatest days are still to come. And its teachers, as always, will light the way. Thank you very much, and God bless you all. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, to introduce our final session of today's opening plenary, please welcome to the stage President and Editor-in-Chief of DevEx and author of the forthcoming book, The Business of Changing the World, Raj Kumar.
I had to play this song. I know you all love this song. If I played it a little bit longer, it would never leave your minds for the rest of the day. You know, when it was written in 1985 actually, it was written to raise funds for the famine in Africa. And at the time, 4 in 10 people on this earth were living in extreme poverty. Just to kind of visualize that, look at this grand hall and imagine just about half of us living without access to a toilet or clean water or basic medicine or sufficient food. It's pretty shocking. That was 1985. Fast forward to today, it's now 1 in 10 people on Earth are living on less than $2 a day. It's a huge accomplishment. But as Sonny Varkey eloquently said, times are changing. And this is a new era. So feel-good songs like that one and the kind of charitable inclinations fueled by good intentions that we have heard so much about in the past, they're really no longer enough. I'm here to argue today that charity and aid, the way that we have long understood it, is ending. It's over. Being a global do-gooder today, it's a little bit like being a taxi driver just when Uber was coming on the scene. Things are starting to shift. The $200 billion aid industry, all the NGOs, the development banks, the aid agencies, it's being turned on its head. And it's really moving from an era of good intentions to a competition for good results. As the editor-in-chief of DevEx, the news website that covers global development, I've got to see this up close for the past 20 years. And I've distilled what I've learned into a book that I'm announcing for the first time from this stage. It's called The Business of Changing the World, and it's out next month. Thank you. In the book, I try to show what the aid industry was, where it is now, and where it's headed. And here's an example of where things used to be in the old aid industry. Remember 1 laptop per child? I'm sure everybody here does. So this was a classic case of really good intentions but gone wrong. In 2005, the big ambition was they're going to deliver 150 million of these laptops just in 2 years. Now, 4 years after that announcement, only a few 100,000 had actually been delivered. And the worst part were the results. So as Sonny Varkey rightly pointed out, ed tech really isn't about the tech. And in this case, there wasn't enough asking teachers, do they want these laptops? How would they use them? Is this really a priority? Developing the curriculum and training teachers was an afterthought. And so not surprisingly, learning outcomes didn't actually improve. Millions of dollars were raised, great intentions, but frankly, a lot of it was wasted. Here's an example of where we are now. People, our friends here from East Africa may recognize this. So in sub-Saharan Africa, traffic accidents are the leading cause of death for kids who are over 15 years old, second leading cause of death for kids under 15 years old. And in the old way of thinking about aid, we might have said, well, we got to focus on road improvements or policing, or we have to do something really big, maybe self-driving cars to solve such a big problem and save those lives. But increasingly, we're realizing in the aid industry that the people we're trying to help aren't helpless victims or beneficiaries. They're actually the agents of their own change. And so we're beginning to actually listen to them about the challenges they're facing, and they're taking the lead role in addressing them. Not surprisingly, the ideas they often come up with are smaller. They're more incremental, and they're more realistic. So in this case, that sticker you see on the wall, the result is Zusha, which means speak up or protest in Swahili. And it's a very simple idea. You put the sticker inside the minibus, and when your driver is insanely careening down the road, we've all been in that circumstance, you're encouraged to speak up. And they tested this thing out on a very small scale, and they found in that first test a 60% reduction in traffic injuries, just from a sticker. It's now being rolled out across Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, and Rwanda. It's a super low-tech example, so let me show you a high-tech one. This is Zipline. Zipline is the drone delivery system for blood. Now, Rwanda is a really hilly country. If you're in an accident, if you have an emergency, you need blood, and in your rural area, you might be out of luck. The roads aren't always good. A truck or a motorcycle might take too long to get to you. That is no longer the case. These styrofoam drones are now successfully delivering blood in under an hour. They've made 11,000 deliveries like this. They're saving lives. They're very cost-effective. They're being expanded now to Ghana and even to the United States. So here's a new aid example of a humble tractor. The tractor was invented in 1892. But in many places in the world, including Nigeria, if you're a small-scale farmer, you still can't afford one. And if you want to prepare your field for planting season, it takes about 40 days of back-breaking work. If you have a small tractor like this, it's only 8 hours. So a company, a social enterprise called Hello Tractor, has come up with a great idea, and they're leveraging the fact that internet is growing across Africa and across the developing world, and now they've developed basically Uber for tractors. It's a smart AI-powered device. You can connect it to any small tractor, and it unlocks the potential of farmers because they can share tractors, just like Uber. It's an example of really understanding that when you're thinking about something like rural poverty, it's not the donors, it's not the NGOs, it's not the social entrepreneurs that are the key part of this equation, it's the farmer. Today, 75% of the tractors that come into Nigeria are using the Hello Tractor technology. And they're now expanding to 5 markets across Africa. So I said in the very beginning of this that things are getting better for poor people, and that is true, and that is good news. But there's bad news, too. We live, as I think we all know, in a deeply unequal and unjust world. 7 in 10 people on Earth today are living on less than $10 a day. Half of all the people in the world today cannot access basic medical care. And 250 million children go without education. A lot of the success we've seen in the past, of poverty levels coming down, have been in places like India and China and Brazil, big economies growing fast. But where the extreme poverty is today are places where there's conflict and injustice, much harder circumstances. And for the challenges of this new era, we kind of need a new aid industry. We need an aid industry that's fit for purpose. We've got to get an aid industry we need, but to do that, we have to realize that the aid industry actually belongs to the people that it's meant to serve. We've got to start to measure our success by how well it serves them. We need real accountability for results. And there is urgency in this. There are 26 million refugees in the world today. Half of them are children. From Afghanistan to Greece to Rwanda, I would venture that everyone in this room, and you come from almost the entire world in this great hall, has refugees living in their community. This is the highest number of refugees we've seen for 50 years. Among the worst refugee crises in the world is that facing the Rohingya people of Myanmar. So please join me in welcoming on the stage 3 remarkable people who are working on the front lines of this challenge. Thank you. I want to start with you, Ahmed. Ahmedullah, you were actually born in a refugee camp.
Yes.
In Bangladesh. You spent the first 15 years of your life there. What was it like when you wanted to get an education as a Rohingya kid in a refugee camp in
For
Bangladesh?
me, when I really wanted to get education, it was when I was 7 years old. when I was 7 years old, I went to the school system that was set up by the UNICEF and UNICEF in the refugee camp in Bangladesh. When I went there, the teacher said to me, the headmaster of the school, he's the one who take all the registration, he said to me, why you want to be educated? People like you have no father and your mother is mentally ill. What's the purpose of the education? What are you going to do with it? So we cannot waste this resource that we have in this institute for you. So you should get lost and try to survive as long as you can. And I remember him kicking me on the chest and kicking me out of the school.
So what did you do? What was your life like as a kid?
I mean, after someone tells you to survive as long as you can, there's a thing in me, there's a courage and hope inside me said to me that I'm going to show him someday. And that day, I went outside the camps, and I got a job in a coffee shop, working 16 hours a day, just making about less than Canadian 10 cents to provide for my mom and sister, my little sister. And for me, I remember passing almost dying in days not eating because I was so busy trying to make enough money to provide for my mom and sister.
Now, at the age of 15, you were able to make it to Canada. And you have since been going back to Cox's Bazar, the largest refugee camp in Bangladesh. The experiences you described, these harrowing experiences of your youth, were some time ago. Please tell us it's better today.
I wish I could, but at the same time, I can't tell you that it's better because when I was there, at least there was systems in place to provide education for Rohingyas. At least there was a school that I could have tried to register that I was denied from. At this point, if any of you know that what's going on with the Rohingya crisis, about a month ago, Bangladesh has removed any education system for Rohingyas. And now, at the time when I was in the camp, it was 250,000 people. Now there's 1.2 million Rohingyans. My people are not getting provided education. And it's funny that I have an opportunity in Canada, and I try to go to college and university, take the lavish life that I was given, and at the same time, millions of kids suffering same way that I was suffering, and all they want is education, you know, and nothing has gotten better. Day by day, everything that was given to them by international community is being taken away, just like, you know, about 40 years ago, education rights was taken away from my mom and dad, and they were forced to go in a refugee camp. Now it's being taken away by another generations of Rohingyans that's going to go out without education, without proper education soon.
You talk to these young kids in the camps. What do you think is their future? What do they say to you? What do you feel like might happen to them?
You know, I will try not to cry. The things they say to me is not something I could bear. You know, I got to Dubai, I haven't slept yet. I got here yesterday, and I haven't slept yet because this is the biggest opportunity in my life that I could talk about the rights of my people. You know, this is not just an opportunity for me. This is an opportunity for millions of Rohingyas who look for a better day. You know, when I'm there, people hugging me and crying to me because they want education. These people are not getting, they don't want anything from you. All they want is education, that education that I was provided. Canada giving me a home. All of you has given me a home in different parts of the world, giving me a platform to speak about the crisis. And all I ask is that we provide the same platform for them. But that's all they ask for. They want education.
Zainab Barkani, you have a somewhat different story. You're also Rohingya. You grew up actually and were educated in Myanmar, which is quite a feat. You went all the way through your undergraduate studies there and then also emigrated to Canada later in life. Yes. You faced some hardships, some discrimination. Just describe what it was like to be a Rohingya young woman going through the education system in your own country.
Sure. I think all of us remember our first day of the schools, and I remember it very clearly. When I was 4 years old, I was enrolled to kindergarten by my parents, and I was very happy. As a little girl, I have to go to school. So my mom, she was a teacher, so she taught me what should I do, what I shouldn't do. Because in Burma, as soon as the school starts, we have to do the prayer. Since the majority of Burmese peoples are Buddhist, so they do the Buddhist prayer as a Buddhist ritual. So, as my mother told me after the school start, when there everybody is praying, and I was sitting down quietly. And suddenly my teachers come behind me and she pushed my head onto the floor. And I was scared. I was so shocked. And I looked at her and I said, I was looking at her shaking, and my teacher said, "Oh, why don't you bowing?" And I said, "Because I'm a Muslim and we don't bow to anything other than God." And she said, "Oh, you are Kala." Kala is the derogatory word that they use for the Muslims people. And she said, "Go to the corner and stand there." So starting from that day until I graduate, I have suffered physical abuse, mental abuse, and all kinds of assaults. But I am among the 1% luckiest Rohingya people to go to school, because 99% of us, they didn't have a chance to go to school because of the systematic barriers from the Burmese government.
So now that you're in Canada, you see Rohingya people coming as refugees to your small community in Kitchener, Ontario, Kitchener-Waterloo. What is it like for them when they arrive? Give us a sense of what, especially the refugee women that you work with.
So in 2007, I arrived in Canada, and after 2 months, Canadian government brought 127 Rohingya refugees from Bangladesh refugee camps to Canada. And even though I came from Burma, after I see my people, I was shocked. They came from such a dire conditions, and most of them are 60% of them actually young children and young families, and the parents, the mom are like my age, and most of them never hold a pen. And most of them, they didn't know how to use standard toilet. They didn't know how to use dish soap. They didn't know when do we change the bedsheet. They only know these survival skills. That's what the condition is. So I jumped in and helped these the newcomers, and I helped and other thing that I noticed is our Rohingya refugees, our women, we are treated as a second class level in our societies. And when they want something, they couldn't speak out. When the service provider come, when they said, "What do you need?" And they couldn't speak because the husband talked on behalf of them. So by seeing that, and I said, "No, we have to speak out." So I teach them basis, because I was a teacher back home, so I teach them the basic math and the English skills, and also to empowerment and self-respect, so that if we respect, other people will respect too. And also I teach the student, I open a school in the basement of a mom, and single mom. And now, in 10 years, these women, when they first came, they didn't even hold a pen. Now they passed this driving test, and now they become the Canadian citizen. And now they are, now they become the Canadian citizen, and some of them are working. So from zero to doing. Thank you.
Now, just quickly, Zainab, tell me. In 2015, the Burmese government decided that even the term Rohingya shouldn't be used. I think even some UN agencies stopped using it. What did you do in response to that in your small community?
Yeah, so in 2012, after the massacre, when the world started giving the attention to the Rohingya crisis, and UN is speak out for us, and the Burmese government said they cannot use word the Rohingya. So for a time being, UNHCR stopped using the word Rohingya. So at that time, I took another step. because I have a school in a basement, a homework club, I contacted to the local authorities in Canada, and I explained the situation. So the school boards, they recognize our school as the first Rohingya language school in Canada. Actually, it's in the first Rohingya language school in the world. Thus, I am showing. So I am showing to the Burmese government that even though they didn't allow us to use that word, we have the school recognized as a Rohingya language schools in Canada. And now this community, we have 0% child marriage. We have no child abuse in our community. 90% of our youth are in schools. Some of them are in university, some of them are in college. They come from in a zero level. So now what I am asking is, we have enough empathy. We have enough sympathy and lots of donations too. Now it's time for us to build a school for the Rohingya people. We have lots of Rohingya peoples in diaspora. We have the Rohingya peoples in Malaysia, in India, and in Pakistan, around the world. So please build the school for us. Please provide the vocational training for us so that our youth, our women will be empowered. And then we are in Canada, we are raising the first educated generation from illiterate people. Like Canada, any other places, the Rohingya parents can raise their first educated generation for them.
Asif Saleh, I want to bring you into the discussion. You left a big corporate job to join what is the world's largest NGO, BRAC. And BRAC is actually the biggest responder to this crisis in Bangladesh, where you're from, where you're based. Tell us, what do you see on the ground as the biggest responder in this refugee crisis?
Thank you so much, Raj. And like Zanav said, exactly that is true, that let's give some context to this. I mean, when in 2017 this latest influx happened, about 700,000 people, Rohingya people, came to Bangladesh within a span of 4 weeks, and 3/4 of them were women and children, right?
700,000 people in 4 weeks.
4 weeks. It's the city of San Francisco, basically, just in your doorsteps. And Bangladeshi government did an amazing job opening up their doorsteps and going all out to support them. I think they deserve a big round of applause. I, as a Bangladeshi, was very proud that we could do something for them, but we saw something very similar. The Rohingya women were the voiceless minority within a stateless minority. Because we were amazed, like when we went in to provide the emergency support, that here is a community who have been disenfranchised for such a long time that their children were not immunized. There hardly any basic literacy or numeracy among them, right? And the women, they didn't want to come out. They didn't have any voice. They didn't want to speak. They didn't feel that they have any confidence that they have any right. And now things have changed. I mean, there's a lot of sense of normalcy in there. Let's talk some numbers in terms of recently the survey was done. About 180,000 children are now in the learning centers that are ongoing. About 90% of them get their competency at least from a pre-primary to grade 1 to 2. But here's what gets interesting. Only 4% have grade 4 to 6 competency, and 3% from grade 6 to 8. And if you look at children, people from age 15 to 24, only 3% have access to any form of basic education or skills training. So this is where the danger is. That is the biggest challenge, that such a large generation of people, we are in the risk of losing out, which potentially could have been an asset, but then potentially can become a liability and a risk factor for Bangladesh.
And just quickly explain to those who might not be aware, what is a learning center? You said there are many children in these learning centers. What are they?
It's a form of an informal center where you get basic literacy and numeracy and on their own language, in Myanmar language. And so it's a fun-based, play-based system. But it's more geared towards more short-term, temporary emergency response but not something which is long-term.
Yeah, and that's kind of the challenge that we're facing in this context and really globally. You see that at BRAC, that these crises are persisting. Governments might say, well, we hope they're short-term, so we don't have to build a school, we don't have to create permanence.
Yes.
But they're not short-term, are they?
Absolutely. More and more we are seeing these kinds of protracted crises because, as you know, that a lot of these conflicts are within the countries that are happening, and then a community are getting pushed out as well, whether it's in Syria or other places as well. And again, the thinking is that it's short-term relief and emergency response. It's not geared towards long-term protracted solutions. So as a result, we have all these people in such a large number who are in a limbo situation. Without even politically things get resolved, then we have lost an entire generation who will never be able to change their lives. So we really need to think about moving away from this short-term approach to more longer-term development approach, because otherwise we risk losing generations of people. The numbers are too large. And more importantly, they're not just numbers. Each of them are lives, right? And one person at the camp, I was there 2-3 weeks ago, said that, what's the point in as lives saved if there's no hope? And education and skills gives them that hope, that after this is resolved, whether I'm in Myanmar or Bangladesh, I can rebuild my life. But at the same time, we definitely must hear a lot of influencers out here. We must do all our effort to push the Myanmar government to have a safe, dignified return, repatriation, and take responsibility of their own citizens. Otherwise, this situation is not going to get improved. Thank you.
Ahmed, you talked about the burden you feel as someone who has made it out. What are you trying to do to help the children you meet in the camps?
It's not what I want to do, it's the responsibility those kids put on me. I love hearing people talk about education, honestly, because, that was one of my biggest challenges. When I went to the camps, I sat in a room. As Rohingya, I organized a meeting in the community centers that organizations have built. I met with about 500 students. And I let everybody talk for 1 or 2 minutes, and I kept going back for a few days to hear all the stories. One of the kids said to me, that was the most compelling. He said to me he wants to be a lawyer. I asked him, why do you want to be a lawyer? He said to me, because someday when I become a lawyer, I want to take the Burmese government to court for all the things that they have done for my people. I want to get justice for my people. When he was saying that, I was like to him, but all the education system is closed off to you. He said to me personally, if you can find a way to provide fundings for me, I will get you ways to send me to school. That day I made a promise to him. Before I share you the promise that I made to him, I want to share something with you guys. On my way to Dubai, a woman named Ki Ewing, she called me. She said to me, Ahmed, before you go to your conference, please come and meet me. She gave me this pen. Yes, it's made with 18-karat gold. That's not the reason that meant so much to me. When I opened the box, the pen gave me hope. Hope meant education. If someone can give me hope, why can't we give all those Rohingyas hope? Why can't we give 500 of those Rohingyan kids hope to go to university so they could learn something, so they could be something, so they could build a future for themselves and their people? I cried in that moment, sorry. I cried because I was reminded again of the promise that I made to those kids in the camp. And the promise I made to them was, no matter where life takes me, no matter where I end up tomorrow or the day after, but I promise you I'll find a way to send you to school. And in this conference today, I'm not asking, I'm begging every single one of you in this room, you could change those lives, those 500 people. They could turn out just like me. I am a proof that refugees could be anything as long as you give them a chance. Just like Key Ewing, just like the way she put a pen on my hand, let's put on pens on the hands of the Rohingyans, on those vulnerable lives before these people picks up a gun and start shooting people. Let's give them opportunity. That's all they're asking for. They don't want your food. They don't want your money. They don't want anything. They just want an opportunity so they can contribute to your society. And if anybody from the Bangladeshi government is here, I personally beg you on behalf of my people, you have the power now. All of my people, all of my youth, they're in your country. I am so grateful to you that you give us an opportunity to stay in your land, even though the country is suffering its own self. But what's the point of keeping us alive if we have no future to look forward to? What's the point if we're going to become just like the way the Burmese government wants us to become? My mother is uneducated. My father was never able to pursue education. I was told that I shouldn't be educated. Let's not give the Burmese government what they want. Let's change the way we think. Let's change the way we plan their future. Let's give them education, please. And I beg every single one of you, please don't let me feel the burden of trying to educate 500 kids or trying to send those 500 kids to school. I want every single one of you to help me to make sure that I can succeed in this journey that I have taken. I don't care for my success anymore. I don't care about if I completed school or not. All I think about and care for is those kids in the camp, those 500 kids that hope for same opportunity, hope to get the same opportunity that I have today. Please help me. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking this incredible panel. Thank you. And let me leave you with this. Clearly, we need to do more. We need to work differently and more urgently. We need to get results for people, including millions of children living in desperate situations like the Rohingya kids. Good intentions are simply not enough. But if you're not yet convinced, please watch this.
I'm Hussein Johar and Rohingya. At the door, when I was at Vinare, the other Gori, the Zarvere. At the Bamna, the right or Borome. The Tara Hoja to Jedilata, that could be at to Gavare. Majamabra Dagila, the thing, I born to share, I think, Bijosh to wash it, Rishin, Moroto, Bijuduke, a doodle food, get to that rain. I think Dosh Bardun Bangi. Era that's for Farin, Kashuna Shilling, Kurukuri, and a Badavaji Bida for Jane. Ga Buddha, do you think much vision? Era Bida for Jane, that for about. Our bash tash fine about Gotor Bandi. I Rohingya, I Bormatu Rashidi. Assalamu alaikum.
Anna Janas. To I go Refugee. To family shot terrorism মানুষ আছে তো আরা কেন আসিদি আর আরে মিলিটারি মার দে তোলা আর আসিদি গোরপুরা দি বেলা তো লড়ার দরের গো মানুষ নিয়ে নিলে তো আন্নু আইয়ে মারি ফেলে তো যে গো জামা মারি ফেলাইয়ে তো পুয়াক গো রাইতা নিলে দিন তো আন্নু আইয়ে তো অশান্তি ভাওনা জোরে আর আসি না আর ফলে বেশি শান্তিতে ছিলাম কেন শান্তিতে বিনা সরে উড়ি ফজর আনন্দ দিলে 500 বাজে উড়ে নদ দোয়া পড়ি নদ দোয়া পড়ি বাদেলা দর কুসাবালা সাড়া হস তুলি বেলা মনে হস তোর বাদের হুয়ানদের মুয়া তার দুই পলাই তো হুয়ানদের নাচা হারাই উড়ে কি বর্মার দুঃখ পাই এটা আনিলে হয় তারও কষ্ট পায় তো আনিলে দুঃখ আনিলে বেশি দূরে যাওয়া পারে দিগরা আনতে আনতে 2-3 ঘন্টা যাগই তো শিখে গেলে মানুষ তো গরম তো বাজার আজার নাই কেমন মাঝে শান্তি না পায় কি হলো না পায় দে তুই নারা তো অশান্তি লাগলে নারা সাই দি আরা সাই দিলামা শান্তি আইনে সাই না তো দিলামা শান্তি নয় বাজে অক্কল ইনসালে বাজে অক্কল কি বুঝো
Ana monora ashito armatu. I got to the Bena Sazara, she says, because at there about that there into a dogmade about Tarama, Mamma, I don't ask buying a slim valley. There also live to there. I don't like it. My Stilia don't like it. You have to area victory. My chill. Yama victory. School tale don't like a find Garo Tanation Gura. I don't like a get to say, Atula Balaga that is I don't like.
Don't you want to kill Jumala? I kill Jum, money for 10 Guru Bani there?
1 hour I find the recovery of Mastura, I don't want the air of Masturia. Give my Jarvatia, Gia, Calais, Falden Calais. I don't Calais the one. Why just there? Gale Jasmine Gumina Argai Argo Namo that I had in the poetic. I don't hang out. I mean, I should know anybody. I thought will put no will have Tata Margaret. Bina go to the Mahadena Fanaja from the Toyota Rubber. Burn and the have by burn and the rabbi. Have I to the front? School to the school to Fatah to the rubber. I need the school there. At a book, the hollow the pencil the to the front, funny bottle libaton. Nanto অসুখ তো সকালে ডাটা আনা যায় তো তারপর আবার অসুখ হলে আবার ডাটা হানা এলো যে না বাড়ির না আবার নাই রাধা করি তো মাস্টারের ভালো লাগে আর ফোনানো পড়লে দেখি
Friends, a powerful film, a reminder of our responsibilities as fellow human beings on this planet. We all, I don't know about you, but I felt very uncomfortable watching that. When we think about changing the world, yes, of course, it starts at home with our own families, in our own classrooms, in our own communities. But friends, we have a responsibility to all those people out there. And unfortunately, this is an increasingly common occurrence that we see today. The refugee crisis is real. It affects so many young people, and we have a responsibility towards them. Over the next 2 days, you will meet changemakers from the highest level of governments around the world, all the way through to friends like Kennedy Odede, Mina Guli, Mark Pollock, these young Canadians from Myanmar. And our responsibility over the next 2 days is to understand from them how we can bring change. Please use this opportunity of those 2 days to not just learn for yourselves, but to share that with everyone that you know. That is the responsibility that we have for the next 2 days. Sessions will start at 11 a.m. this morning. The way this conference center is set up is that we have half of the sessions in this building over here. The other half, if you follow the blue carpet to the Assateer tent, that is where you will see the remainder sessions. I wish you all a really fantastic 2 days. Thank you so much for supporting us. How do I end? Let the doors open. Thank you all.